Awesome. Well, Happy New Year, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited about our conversation. So, for those who are joining, I have with me two menopause experts in a realm that I honestly did not know existed until I met them. I have here with me Siri Erickson and Sarah Larson. So, Siri is a menopause doula. And Sarah is a menopause coach. So I'm going to kick it off by having you each introduce yourselves a little bit more about your background and explain to people what is a menopause doula, what is a menopause coach. Siri, let's have you go first.
Oh, great. All right. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you, Nicole. It's so exciting to have your column out in the world, and I'm excited about this conversation today. So, I 3 years ago got certified as a menopause doula. So, prior to that, I had a 20-year career in leadership that spanned the faith sector and the higher ed sector as a pastor and as a chaplain. And when I hit 46, I had my own kind of like upheaval with a health crisis and along with an identity crisis and what am I doing and why do I feel so terrible and all of that, which led to a series of big changes. So I left my job, took a new job, got new certifications, and all the while I was trying to figure out how to get my body back to something I could enjoy living in again. And along the journey, I encountered many amazing practices and tools and information. I have a degree in chemistry, so I love the science side of everything. And also, I have a doctorate in leadership, so I'm always interested in empowering women, especially those who are leaders, to show up as their best, most authentic selves, feeling good, feeling like they can live purposefully in the world. And that all of that shift in perimenopause for me led me one day to be out on a walk and wonder, just the idea kind of popped into my head. I wonder if there's such a thing as a menopause doula. That would be really helpful. And so when I got back to my desk, I Googled it. And yes, there is such a thing. It's pretty new. The Menopause School is based in the UK, and they really are kind of the pioneers and leaders in an international movement to train and certify menopause doulas. And some people might be more familiar with birth doulas. That's the most common one. Now we also have end of life doulas. And menopause doula is kind of the newest entry into that group of caregivers. And so a menopause doula really has a twofold mission. One is to provide really good evidence-based education in a format that people can really understand and access. So, kind of to be a bridge between the medical providers, the researchers, and the everyday person, especially in my practice, like busy leaders who don't have tons of time to do all their own research and spend hours and hours and hours reading all the literature and the research and the books and etc. To be kind of a translator and to keep tabs on the latest research and share that with people. And then the second part of our mission is to provide personalized support and care for people who are going through the menopause transition. And in doing that, we have a toolkit that includes, kind of the whole span of education, lifestyle changes, holistic therapies, etc. And so every doula is a little bit different depending on what their other work history is, degrees, certifications, etc. So in my case, I combine my doula work with my science background, my leadership background, and also my interest in holistic health. And then so I have another certification in holistic health too. So
Wow. That's fascinating. And I have a couple follow-up questions for you. But first, I wanted to jump to Sarah. So, menopause coach. Again, I had no idea that this was a thing until you and Siri and another colleague of yours, you all reached out to me after the first column. So, what is a menopause coach? How did you come into becoming a menopause coach?
Well, I didn't know that menopause coach was a thing either, to be totally honest, until I desperately needed one.
Mm.
Siri and I connected because our stories really are so similar. In my mid 40s, I also ended up having this sort of crazy health chaos that settled in, and I had no idea what was causing it. I'd already gotten my life coaching certification, so I was working with women who find themselves in that sandwich generation where they're dealing with aging parents, but they also have kids at home and are trying to manage all of that. So I was already in the coaching space and simultaneously going through this medical life identity crazy chaos trying to figure out what in the world was happening. And once I really figured out that a lot of what was at play was perimenopause, which was even at the time a totally new word to me. I didn't even know that perimenopause even existed as a term. So I did what I do in every case where I don't know something, and I started digging in and researching and trying to learn as much as I could. I got really involved with the National Menopause Society, became a member, started going to conferences, started going to events and online seminars, and really started to try to connect with medical providers who were offering menopause care to better understand like what's being offered, what does evidence-based care do when it's being done really well, and where are the gaps? Where do doctors really see a need for women to have more information or understand better what's happening to them both before and after seeing a care provider? So I've created a little bit of a niche as a evidence-based coach who helps women find access to evidence-based care and then follows up with them through that whole process. Because let's be real, menopause is a hell of a lot more than just what happens in the 45 minutes after your doctor's appointment and you get a plan of action in place. Like life doesn't stop, work doesn't stop, family doesn't stop. Like everything keeps going. Trying to figure out how to navigate all of that and treat menopause and almost all of us. And so I get to come alongside as a navigator as well as someone who can um, help make sure that you're getting the care and attention that you need and really want and deserve to.
Wow, that's great. So I definitely see some similarities between the two, but there are nuances, right? So explain to me what those similarities are, and then where the two paths or the two disciplines kind of start to veer a little bit, and there are those differences.
Yeah, I would say that where we are super similar is that both of us really focus on the individual person. The need for really personalized care and attention is so prevalent because no woman's menopause experience is like any other woman's menopause experience. And that gets lost a lot in the online space and in the shuffle. Like you kind of hear these universalized concepts like everyone has hot flashes, but not everyone does. And so we really approach our care and coaching with the women from a really like one-on-one. What's really happening with you? Do you understand what's happening with you specifically? And then let's figure out how we can get you all the tools in the toolkit that are available and see which ones work. And that's a long process for most women. It's not just a one and done. It's not a 12-week program that you can do and suddenly your menopause symptoms go away. It's a long process. And I think most women benefit a lot from just having someone who can walk alongside them. So that's for sure where what we do is almost identical. Siri, I'll let you take how we do differ a little bit.
I would add just one other thing that's similar and then I'll pivot. So I think we're both really committed to evidence-based care and to staying connected to the best information available. Because one of
Well, I
the
just
things
have you
that,
pause there
yeah,
and explain what is evidence-based care for those who don't know what you're talking about. You mentioned it a couple times, so let's just clarify before we move forward.
yes. Yes, so evidence-based care is care that is based in scientifically validated research and medical expertise. So it's not just like a whim or an idea, but it's care that has behind it the weight of research that's been done through a scientifically rigorous process.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I felt it
No,
was
no, that's
important to
good.
say. Mm.
Um, so yeah,
That's a
so I think
similarity. Yeah.
yeah, that's the similarity. So I think one of the ways that we're different is that a lot of menopause doulas, and myself included, have a prior certification in some kind of other holistic health modality, whether it be, in my case, clinical EFT tapping or massage therapy. There's even people that work in, PT or in the beauty industry. So for the most part, doulas are working in some kind of holistic and or beauty kind of
Mhm.
field and have that kind of background and training deeper around nutrition, stress management, nervous system health, supplements,
Mhm.
all those kinds of things. And so as doulas, we are definitely adjacent to the medical profession, but I'm not as deeply tied in and connected to it as Sarah is in
Mhm.
her practice. So, a lot of the clients that I work with are interested in either not using, prescription drugs and or hormone therapy, or they are using it and it's not doing enough for them, like there's still a gap
Mhm.
that they're looking for support with. And so they are turning to supplement that medication with additional practices, therapies, nutrition, movement, etc. And so a lot of what I do with my clients is focused on that kind of complementary, holistic
Mhm.
side of things, helping people optimize their food, their stress, their schedule, working on EFT is a trauma informed therapy, or practice. So I help people who are having all kinds of different past traumas emerge or unresolved grief. So a lot of work on the emotional side
Mhm.
of it too, because the menopause transition is not just a medical experience, it's a whole life, whole body experience, which impacts our emotions, our relationships. And so there's a lot of things that doctors and other medical providers just don't have the time to do in a clinical practice to really help people kind of move the needle on some of those other pieces. So
Right.
that's kind of how I know Sarah does do some of that too, but I think in terms of our training and focus, I would emphasize more on the holistic side.
Right. And I think what was interesting is as you both first talked about how you got into this yourselves personally, but also what the disciplines are, you essentially talked about filling gaps that exist. Whether that be in the traditional medical system, whether that be, gaps between a doctor and then a therapist, because again, your mental health is every bit as important during this period as your physical health. Tell me a little bit more about that because menopause isn't just a, year-long journey. It is depending on when you enter and when you get out of it. And even when you get out of it, you're still kind of dealing with some of this gunk, right? This is like a 10, 20-year journey. So why is it important to have people in your spaces, your roles, filling some of those gaps or those cracks that exist between?
Mhm. I A big piece is I mean, what people don't really understand is that once we start perimenopause, which for many women, the earliest symptoms do start in our late 30s and show up in ways that aren't your sort of typical symptoms, right? It can be sleep disruptance or disturbance. It can be really subtle changes to your cycle that you might just think are a one-off because you're traveling or you're stressed. So some of those changes begin way earlier than most of us even know or understand. So knowing that women spend between 30 and 40% of our lives in one of the three stages of menopause. So between peri-menopause, which is really just a moment when you're 12 months past your menopause or past your last period, and then postmenopause, which you stay in until you die. So we spend a massive amount of our lives in this transitional and low estrogen state. And that is, it's not a static state. Perimenopause has its own sort of chaos that it rots. And then there's all kinds of stuff that happens with postmenopause because it's not like suddenly, at 82, your ovaries kick in and we're like, yay, we're back in the party. Like you stay in that state forever. So, um, part of it is just the long game. I think helping women really understand that this is about looking at your life moving forward and really thinking about like all of these changes are happening to me. My brain is being impacted. We have estrogen receptors in every single part of our body. So it's affecting our skin, it's affecting our organs, it's affecting our brain, it's affecting our heart, right? It's everything. And those changes have a long-term impact, not only just because we're having hot flashes and waking up in the middle of the night, but even as we get older, there are long-term impacts of those changes that affect us forever. So one of the things that I think Siri and I get to do, because we have time to, is we get to really look at that long view with women and ask women the question, like, who are you becoming? What do you want from your life as you're getting older and as you're thinking about moving through these stages of menopause, but also like as you're really making a plan for what you want to be able to do as you get older too, and setting up yourself for success because you understand, right? You have the knowledge to back up, like, I know what's happening. Now I feel like I have the tools and the resources that I need to make a difference. And so, in order to just give a better sense of like, you get to have a lot more power and control over this aging process than I think as women we've really given permission to think about in the past.
Oh, I love that. And I want to get back to that point you made about who are you becoming. But Siri, you were nodding your head, and it sounds like you've got a little bit to add first.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a very basic kind of human level, we're wired for connection. And I think a lot of women who are going through perimenopause feel alone. They
Mhm.
don't know what's happening. They feel isolated. They feel like it's impacting them, but they're trying to hide how it's impacting them from certain people, like depending on, right? It's just kind of like, well, we should just be able to suffer through, put on the tough face, and do everything we've always been able to do. And so I think a lot of my clients really appreciate and benefit from somebody else who's not them saying, it's okay to rest when you need to rest. It's okay to spend money on massages if that's what you need. It's okay to, change your schedule so you have more time to move and take walks throughout the day. It's, like somebody who's listening has the time to deeply listen and to validate the experiences that people are having as true and as worthy of being addressed. So I think that's one thing that we have the opportunity to do as we journey alongside people over a period of time. And then, this process is dynamic. So just because I'm feeling one way this year doesn't mean it's going to be the same next year. And so to have somebody journeying along with you who's kind of helping you tend to that longer arc of the process
Mhm.
and can check in with you on a regular basis or send notes of encouragement or, if something has changed, can talk through that with you and help you kind of point you to the right resources for that next stage or that next symptom or whatever it might be. So,
I think to
and
add to
do
that, oh, go ahead, Siri.
yeah, I was just gonna say, one of the things that we learned in doula training was just good menopause care is really essential for women's longevity.
Mhm. Yes.
Even though women live longer,
Mhm.
women don't live disability free for many of those years, but that's not our destiny. And that a lot of that can be remedied if we do the menopause process well and
Yeah.
get the support we need. That can set us up for a healthier life as we age, not just more years.
Yes, I just spoke to a woman. She's Carolyn Torkelson. I don't know if you know the name. She wrote Beyond Menopause. Yeah, so I just spoke to her a couple days ago. And at the start of our interview, she was a little breathless. She said, "I'm sorry." And she's 76 years old. I just got back from playing pickleball. I play pickleball almost every day. And I thought, yes, you are my spirit animal. I want to be you when I grow up. That's
Yes.
exactly right. So,
Yes.
Well, and I think what I love about Siri, how you articulated that too, is one of the things that Siri and I love to do and do really well is remind women that there's a difference between the term normal and common. There's
mm,
a lot of things that happen that are really common during perimenopause and even into postmenopause that are not, in fact, normal. Because if we normalize symptoms, if we normalize suffering, the likelihood that women are going to continue to do, as Siri so beautifully explained, like just suffer through it, right? Pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Like we've done this, and women throughout history have done this their entire lives, so we can too. We're not going to complain, right? We're just going to like muscle through. Sure, we can. We're women. We can do anything we want to, but we don't have to. And to normalize that, I think, often prevents women from really seeking out and getting the help that they need. So, common symptoms and common experiences are one thing, but normalizing that is a different conversation. And that's a distinction that Siri and I are really trying hard to bring light to, just to remind women, like, you deserve to feel well. Like, you don't have to feel like shit every day. You can feel good.
yeah. Yeah. And that's so I think one of you mentioned just how isolating it can feel this period of life. And I certainly felt that at the beginning of my journey before I figured out what was happening and before I got help. And it's also, because there hasn't historically been a lot of conversation about it, it's not something that you feel comfortable talking about. And
Right.
then as we think about what you just said about longevity, that social aspect and being able to connect with people, right? And have those strong social bonds and those social connections and that social support is a key to longevity. And so I wonder if you have any thoughts about just how important your roles are in this space, helping women have a place where they can talk about this, right? And they do feel supported and they can distinguish between what's common and what's normal and again start to develop those good social habits and that good emotional habit moving into their older years.
Yeah.
I
I
think,
want to tell a
I think
story
one of,
about an event that I did just because I think it just beautifully answers, like, best case scenario, your question.
Okay.
So I grew up in Shoreview and grew up in a church in Circle Pines, and my mom is still engaged there. And so when they found out I was a menopause doula now, they were like, "Hey, could you come lead a workshop for us?" And so I zoomed in, and they had me on a big screen, but the people who had gathered were women in their 40s and 50s, and also women, more of my mom's generation, in their 70s. And so I did my spiel, with my info and stuff like that. And then, there was some Q&A, and then I logged off so that they could turn to each other and have a conversation. And the team that invited me to do that emailed me after the fact, and they were like, "You would not believe we had the most amazing connections in the group between women who are postmenopause and have been for a decade or two, and the younger women in our community." And we were able to share stories of encouragement with them and tell them, about our experiences. That was the older women, and the younger women were able to share what they're going through now. And it just was this amazing intergenerational
Mhm.
space. That's what I love to do, kind of as a catalyzer of connection and conversation. And then they take care of a lot of the caring, right? They care for each other. They're already in community together. And so to create spaces where that kind of connection can happen so that people are better able to take care of each other
Mhm.
in the communities where they are already connected, that to me is like,
I love that. I love the
Best.
intergenerational component of that too. That's, I mean, if we look at other cultures are so much better about,
Yes.
that intergenerational piece. And we, as an American society, are not so great at it, right? I mean, there's a lot of value in connecting women in their 40s and 50s with women who've been there and done that, right? And not just in that moment, but keeping that connection alive.
Absolutely.
Sarah, you were going to add something.
I was going to say at the end of all of my co one-on-one client coaching calls, one of the question I always ask is, what was most helpful for you from our conversation today? And I would venture a guess 85% of the time, the comment I get is just being heard.
Mm,
Just having someone listen who really understands what's happening to me and can help normalize what's happening or make me understand that this is more common, in fact, just sets their mind at ease in a way that I think there's so much stress that we carry in not knowing and not understanding and feeling like we're going through this by ourselves. So
mm,
that's one way. And I hear that over and over again. And I have a group coaching program that it was interesting. I had all these visions of grandeur for what this coaching program was going to end up being. And what we have really learned as a group as we're going through it together is that what we really benefit from, all of us in that group, are hearing each other's stories and
mm,
being able to just listen to one another and feel like, okay, I don't have to walk through this all by myself. I can do this alongside other amazing women who are figuring it out along the way. And there's so much power and comfort in that. And that's probably, again, like Siri said too, the experience of being able to see women's shoulders drop and they take a deep breath and go, okay, I'm going to be okay. This is going to be okay, is everything to me.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. So I want to kind of drill down a little bit more into what a visit with each of you would look like, and then how you help women. And every menopause journey is different. I think you said some women have hot flashes, some don't, right? So when a woman comes to you and says, "Oh my gosh, please help. Like this has just been the worst year of my life. I turned 44 and my body fell apart." Where do you begin? And then how long does that relationship or that journey typically last? Sarah, I'll start with you.
With me. The first is really specifically around helping you find evidence-based care. So that's a couple of sessions we meet. We get really clear about like what are your symptoms? Super easy to read cheat sheet that you can bring into your doctor's appointment so that you really understand here's what I need you as a physician to really understand. Here are questions that I need you to answer, and this is additional information that I'm looking for. And the sheet was designed ultimately by my interviews with physicians saying this is what they would like to see their clients come in with so that they can maximize their time with their clients as fast as possible and as easily as possible and get women as much help as they can as fast as possible. So that's one way. And then I do a follow-up to make sure like what recommendations were given. Do you understand the instructions? Is there any additional questions that you have or things that maybe you want to better understand? So that's a very short, brief relationship that I have, which sometimes turns into one-on-one coaching or sometimes they'll join my group coaching program. So then there's one-on-one coaching, and that looks like everything from help me navigate all of the chaos in life, or sometimes it's really more specific around help me manage my symptoms. I need more help and tools and resources and support to get through some of the stuff that I'm going through. And those relationships last from anywhere from 10 weeks to multiple years. And then group coaching is an ongoing program that's designed to be a little bit more of a cost-effective way to be in community, share your experience, get some good education. And that's just 2 calls a month. So it's group coaching 1 week, and then I bring in experts, menopause experts, whether they're fitness experts, weight loss experts, physicians, hormone experts, all of the above. They come in and then present just to help women get all the information that they need. So my relationships are anywhere from 3 weeks to years, depending on what women need. And I let them ultimately drive their own, what it is that they want. There's no like, you have to work with me a minimum or maximum. It's really what they need.
Yeah. And I do want to have you answer that same question, Siri, but I want to go back to something that you mentioned when we first met, and that is that follow-up visit that you referenced. So sometimes women are prescribed HRT, whether that's oral or whether that's, the cream, and they get the stuff home and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm afraid to take this. I don't know when I should start it. Maybe things aren't as bad as I thought they were. So you have those conversations with women. That's why the follow-up appointment
Mhm.
exists, right? So that you can say, okay, what did the doctor tell you? What did they send you away with? Let's talk about it. Tell me a little bit more.
Yep. Well, I didn't really even realize this was a need until I had a client who had just did a 15-minute discovery call, and I said, how are things going? What's working? What's not working? And she pulled up 3 tubes of vaginal estrogen. And she was like, I have these 3 tubes of vaginal estrogen and I've had them for 6 months and I've never used them and I have no idea what to do with them. Right. And I was like, okay, we're gonna, we're gonna, our average appointments with our physicians are 17 minutes. There's a lot of ground to cover. And the doctors, particularly a menopause informed physician, is trying to get you as much information as fast as possible. And those appointments can really feel like sticking your face up to a fire hydrant and having no idea what you heard when you walk out. So it's an opportunity to just take a deep breath and go, okay, let's go through it. And if they want to share information, they can share as much as they want about the appointment, and I can help them just really understand and make sure that they can take the next steps. Because that's the thing too. I just kept hearing over and over and over from doctors that they're like, well, women come, but then they don't, like, there's no adherence, right? They don't really, they're either afraid or I don't see them again for 6 months. And I have no idea if anything that I recommended was helpful or if they even tried it. And so it helps kind of offer that support after that I think way more women need access to.
Yeah, I think about my best friend, and I think I told you this when you first told me this story. She was prescribed vaginal estrogen, the cream, and she didn't take it for months. And so every time I'd see her, and she'd complain, that her symptoms were still pretty strong and some of them worsening. And I kept saying, Lady, did you take the stuff the doctor gave you? And she just said, No, I'm not sure that I want to. I'm afraid. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professional. I couldn't help her other than to say, maybe you should go back and talk to her because you got it for a reason. But she held on to this stuff. It must have been at least 6 months that she sat on it and didn't do anything with it.
One of the craziest stories that I heard, I don't know if you listen to Glennon Doyle's
Yeah.
podcast, she had a podcast that was basically about here's everything that's happening to me in menopause, and I feel like I'm going crazy. But the thing here is like this is an amazingly resourced woman who has almost every single tool at her disposal. And this is public because it was on the podcast, but she came back and she was like, so I've been taking the sticker thing. I've been using that one, but I got a pee pill and I have no idea what the pill that starts with a P does. So it kind of scared me, so I didn't take it. And like in that case, that's a problem, right? Like
So this
you
is
need,
progesterone that she was
right.
prescribed with the
Yep.
estrogen patch. Yeah, they go
Yep.
together. If you
You
have a
need
uterus, they go together.
exactly. And she didn't really understand that. So it had been a couple of months, I think, from the time she'd had that appointment till she was doing the recording of this podcast. And I mean, I right away got on her comments and I was like, here's what the pee pill is. This is why it's really important. Maybe 100 people have already told you this already, but like it's not uncommon. And I think women are embarrassed sometimes. I mean, I get embarrassed if I go, I listen to somebody
Yeah.
and then I leave and I'm like, I have no idea what they just said to me. But it's also really common. It's stressful and you may have sweat through the entire appointment. You may not have slept in 17 days. Like right, there's so many things that could have happened
Yeah.
before going into that office. And so to
Yeah.
come out and feel totally still confused is again crazy common.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's a great story. So Siri, how about you? So when a woman comes to you, what does that first kind of appointment or consultation look like? And then how do you proceed with that woman?
Yeah. So the menopause school created something called the Menopause Support System Questionnaire, which is a key part of our training as doulas to know how to use the questionnaire. And so I send that electronically to people after they book an appointment with me and they complete that. And then I review it. And our first session is really going into depth about the information that they provided in that questionnaire. And it covers everything from your menstrual health history, because there is a connection between kind of how your cycles have been throughout your life and what might be happening in perimenopause, your health history. We know there's a genetic component to the menopause transition in terms of timing, symptomology. It's not destiny, but it gives us information. And then all the symptoms, and I do a really deep dive into any symptom that anybody's checked. For example, if somebody checks, insomnia, there's so many follow-up questions I have about that. Is it that you can't fall asleep? Is it that you're waking up at night? How often is that happening? How much sleep are you getting at night? Do you wake up tired? There's just a series of follow-up questions that then helps me give much better recommendations. So that's the starting place, is really doing a deeper dive into those types of questions and then their goals. So what symptoms are bothering you the most? What options are you open to trying to help alleviate those symptoms? And then based on all of that, out of that first appointment, somebody would leave with customized recommendations for 1 to 3 things that they could do as a next step based on their goals and their symptoms to feel better, basically.
Great.
And then depending on how much they're struggling and how much support they're looking for, then they can opt in if they want to purchase a longer coaching package. I usually start people with a 4-month coaching package with about 6 private sessions and weekly check-ins. And the arc of that coaching process is based around their goals and, again, what symptoms they're trying to get the most relief from. And that might change as we start working together, but it's very customized to each person. And then after that, if they still want to continue on, I have clients that, purchase a year-long package, and that's less frequent private check-ins, but it's to keep that consistency and accountability and support going through what we know is a long arc of a lot of changes. And so I would say, some of my clients who I've been with the longest, it takes them a year to a year and a half to really make all the changes and connections and build their toolkit to the point where they feel dramatically better.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that I really want to emphasize and try to keep emphasizing in my social media posts and stuff like that, is you can feel better. It's not just all doom and gloom. I went from not being able to leave my house because my anxiety levels were so high to now live back to normal, living my life, thriving, doing great, flourishing. That doesn't mean I don't have any symptoms, but I feel like myself again. I feel confident, like I can manage this transition. I feel actually good almost every day. I have energy, I have joy. So I do see clients really get to a better place when they make a longer term commitment to themselves to get that kind of support. And then we celebrate. It's like, you don't need me anymore? Great. You feel so much better. Go spend your money on something else. Go spend your time doing something else. It's like, I think we have all of these rituals around birth and having children. Like, we throw showers and we give presents, and we have these markers that create community, but also honor the significant thing that has happened and is happening. And we just don't have a lot of good rituals and markers around what is an equally, I would argue, momentous transition in a woman's life. And so sometimes Sarah and I, when we're just dreaming together, we're like, wouldn't it be cool to have an annual menopause party, and everyone who went hit menopause day in that year. Like they just come to this big party and we celebrate. And so
I
maybe
love that
someday
idea.
we'll
I love
get
to hire a
there.
We'll
DJ,
get
get
there.
some
Yes,
karaoke. Oh yeah, I'm in. You
catered,
have that,
fully
I'm there.
catered. Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's great. And so it sounds like each of you in your practice, as you help women through this transition, as you walk with them along the journey, you are tapping into expertise and resources and providers of various sorts, depending on those symptoms. So, give me just a couple examples, and not specific providers, but just the genre or the category of provider that you're tapping into or recommending a woman maybe consider.
Mhm. Yeah.
So one of the things that am doing is building just my own network of providers, whether that's OBGYNs, GPs, NPs, PAs, anyone who is providing that hands-on care. But in addition to that, I have a whole tool and resource kit of like personal trainers who really understand how important it is to understand the changes that are happening in women's bodies when you are doing personal training, really understanding weight loss, and a series of experts who are particularly adept at working with women during menopause because the weight loss gain is an almost universal experience, it seems like, and one that I think most women get. Like that tends to be this straw that breaks the camel's back for so many women, where they're just like, I'm doing everything right. Like everything and nothing's changing and it's not getting better. In fact, I'm gaining a couple pounds a month or, 5, 10 pounds a year and I'm so frustrated. So finding people who can really help address that. And then to mental health, like finding tools and resources, women like Siri, who are really good in finding alternative options that do exist. In Minnesota, we're really lucky because there are a fair number of providers that are available and a lot of resources that most women don't even know exist right here. So making sure women just get the information, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
part of my job that I really try hard to not have sit behind a paywall. That's something that I really try to figure out how to raise up the providers and make sure women have access to that information as soon as possible so that they can get the help they want. So that branches, I mean, that's just a handful of some of the people that I have in my back pocket.
Great. Siri, any
Well,
additional?
yeah, I would just say I have clients a lot of clients like on the West Coast too. And so most of my clients I meet with virtually, even though I'm based here in Minnesota. And so I try to more help people figure out how to find a good provider that can help them in wherever they're living, or if there isn't somebody where they live, to have those online, kind of resources as well, so people they can access virtually. So I'm trying to help people understand like what questions can you ask or how can you research different practitioners or providers or coaches or yeah, trainers, because what a 20-year-old male needs for weight training is not the same as what a 50-year-old woman needs. It's very different. So helping them know, yeah, like what to look for and what questions to ask. And then kind of like what Sarah described after they've met with somebody, helping them process that experience. Because unfortunately, still, like a lot of times it doesn't go very well for people. They're disappointed. They don't feel like they were fully heard. And so just being another person that they can kind of process and either say, I think that person has what you need, but like give
Mhm.
it another go, or helping them look for other options too.
Yeah.
And that's a big piece of this too. I would say that a lot of what I do is teach women what advocating for themselves feels
Mm.
like and sounds like, and giving them tools and resources for how they can self-advocate and understanding that that is likely something they're going to have to do over and over and over again. So, yeah, there are a lot of providers out there who can help, but I think most women's experiences are pretty frustrating, being
Yeah.
dismissed and told this is just part of getting older, so suck it up like everyone else did, or you're too young to be in menopause, or, have you looked for a good therapist? I mean, like it's the level and degree to which women are completely gaslit and dismissed in not just in doctors' offices, but like just culturally too. Like, get over it. It's all in your head. And so I think training and teaching and really just also reminding women that we deserve what kind of care we deserve and what that looks and feels like is super important.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I did say I wanted to come back to this idea of what or who do you want to become in your post-menopause life. And so I'm going to ask you each that question. When you think about that, if you're working with clients, I'm sure you've asked yourself that question. So, what is your goal, each of you?
Yeah. So through the process of working with clients, I think it's and doing all this research, I think it's helped me to clarify for myself what the arc is that I'm traveling on and where I'm heading. And so I'm developing, well, my coaching process kind of has this arc that I call foggy to fierce. So when most people come to see me, they're feeling very foggy, very confused, could be literal brain fog, could be, I don't know what's happening to me. And what I want to help them do is jump into a journey of becoming fierce. And that's not like we don't go from foggy to fierce as one step. There's some stops in between around finding our purpose, getting focused, really investing in emotional freedom and kind of cleaning up our, emotional body and learning how to flourish, embracing gratitude, embracing pleasure, embracing joy. And then fierce kind of as the goal is like really owning your own voice and living authentically, not just for yourself, but for others. And to
Mhm.
be able to make the kind of impact in the world that you uniquely can make because of who you are and how you're wired and what your talents are and what resources you have access to. And so, I think I was just talking to a client yesterday and we were talking about some of the grief that happens in this journey of things that are lost, but also some of the things that are gained. And one thing that I hear a lot from my clients is, I just don't care anymore what people think of me. And there's a lot of freedom in that. And so as we're kind of finding our way in this new brain that we're getting that really doesn't care as much about what other people think or what other people's expectations are, how can we almost like return to our childlike
Mm.
self with that spunk and energy, but with the wisdom that we've gained through the life that we've lived? And so that's kind of the journey, I think. The full arc is like really finding our voice and not being afraid to use it for the sake of benefiting other people.
I love that. You gave me goosebumps a couple times, and that is from foggy to fierce. I love that. That's going to be in my mind now moving forward. And Sarah, how about you?
So my tagline kind of accidentally became menopause like a badass. And part of that, honestly, is because so since I was young, I love my favorite place in the whole wide world is the Boundary Waters. And I could go there every day and I would love to live there every day in the summer. And as I've gotten older, particularly when I was having a lot of the crazy stuff happen during my perimenopause nightmare, um, my body really stopped feeling like it was even my own. I mean, and that is such the number of times I hear women say, I look in the mirror and I don't even recognize myself. I don't know who this woman is. This isn't somebody that I've met before. And I think that the propensity is to think that that's a terrible thing, but I really like to shift the script on that a little bit and say, okay, then who is she becoming? Who are you becoming? What is it that you're looking forward to? Because whenever I speak, one of the taglines or one of the things I say is, do any of you drive in your car while looking the entire time in your rearview mirror?
Mm.
Anyone? Do you ride a bike and spend the entire time looking behind you?
Mm.
The answer, of course, is no. But how much of our lives as women do we really spend chasing something that we had in our 20s, chasing our 30-year-old bodies, wishing we had our 25-year-old skin back, wishing we were wrinkle-free, wishing we had our body, like we spend so much time chasing this youth that we are sad to watch disappear and spend almost no time really thinking about what do I want to become as I become an older woman. And for me, that process is rooted in community. It's rooted in finding guides, women who have done this well and have gone before us, and aligning ourselves with women like that. And really then to just discovering kind of our own sense of um, maybe our own sense of mission and vision, moving into what it means to become a badass older woman who you are excited to become. Because that's, for me, I think that's the big thing that has shifted. I can't wait to get older because I give so many fewer F's about everything. I mean, I do. And I start thinking about the freedom, and I think about all the things that I've learned. And I think that there's so much that I have to offer the world, and I'm excited to do that. And dadgum, if I'm not also going to throw a canoe over my head and walk into the boundary waters when I'm
Yes.
80. But that requires me having a plan, right? That requires me having a sense of intention of what I'm doing, how I'm spending my time, what I value, what I'm willing to really invest in myself in order to see that happen. And so my goal for all of my clients is when they are done working with me, that they're disappearing into the sunset in whatever version of them that they are becoming is, and they're looking forward to it, and they're clear about it, and they're confident in it, and they are just ready to go.
Wow. I love that. This has been such an informative and empowering conversation. I'm beaming. I've got just so much respect for what you each do and so much excitement for the journey ahead now, having talked to you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the time. I greatly appreciate you. And I hope to chat with you for another episode in the future.
Hope so too. And thank you for all the work you're doing. I think that you've seen this, but this column is fabulous and it is making a difference. And what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. So thank you for that too.
Thank
You're
you.
using your voice to help
Yeah.
others.
That's the
Love
goal.
it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.